Welcome back to Cloud 941. Hopefully you enjoyed our segment on the youth baseball facilities. Now our guest tonight is John Susce, who's a columnist for the Tempo News and commentator. We're excited to have him. John, welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Ron. Good to see you.
John, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, what you do?
Well, I'm a writer for the Tempo News. I've been sort of a native of Sarasota. I came here in the 50s and spent a lot of time here in Sarasota back in the day, and also spent a lot of time in Boston, and been involved in politics here in Massachusetts, and set up a relationship with Johnny Hunter Sr. at Tempo News, and we've been writing a column up there for the last 2 or 3 years, and we've been getting a lot of interest, and it's been a fun job. And we've been putting some things out there, some controversial things, but basically the facts are there, and it's been a lot of fun.
Just in general, because there are specific issues that I want to cover with you, but in general, let me ask you about a couple of things basically about the Sarasota establishment. Mm-hmm. First of all, the Herald Tribune.
Right.
This is, one of the biggest things I hear from visitors of Sarasota is, what a lousy newspaper that you have. This is today's paper. The front page has got 12 pages on it. 6.5 of these 12 pages today were ads.
Right.
5.5 were columns. This is why they say they have to go down to the local bookstores and buy a newspaper and find out what's going on in the world. What do you think of the Herald Tribune?
Well, one of the things we have in the Herald Tribune, we're constantly, I don't want to say attacking them, but bringing things up that they seem not to get involved with. I mean, it's to us, it's special interests that run it. And I've been mentioned names, Diane McFarland, the editor or the publisher of the paper over the years. I don't think have covered the things in Sarasota need to be covered, and we've been bringing some things up. We've got some problems with them. So, like you say, there's very little things in there locally. Usually what occurs is that they bring in some decent reporters, come in young professionals that are highly educated and doing a good job, but they come in here and what happens, they start writing some decent things, they find out what's happening in Sarasota, and one or two things occur. They either leave or they get involved and just keep their mouth shut with it. And there's been a number of cases over the years that I've talked with some of them and given some information to them. And they've come back to me and said that their bosses wouldn't follow through on it.
Wouldn't let them run the story if it was too controversial?
Yeah, usually what occurs is some controversial issue will come up, the reporter will do a good job in writing about it, and then nothing happens afterwards. There's an editorial part of it, but nothing really happens with it. Most of the stuff isn't reported in fashion. It's more or less, we sometimes call it a cover-up.
Well, they don't have any space.
It's advertising. It's advertising, but all it is, and that's part of the controlling influence of the people that are advertising and control newspapers as our thinking about it. And Tempo, again, it's been the last 2 or 3 years has been in putting things out there that they haven't been covering. And it's been getting a lot of interest, and we're starting to get a great deal of interest.
Well, that's why we have you here, John. First story I want to talk about that they haven't really covered that is interests me a lot, that I'm trying to follow, is the Hal Nelson situation. Hal Nelson's deputy superintendent of schools, I guess, has filed a discrimination complaint against the superintendent of schools, Lori White. Have you done any reporting on that, any investigating? What do you know about that story?
Oh, we're involved with that a lot because Nelson's situation now, Hal's situation with the school board is a continuation of a problem that's been going on for the last 5 or 6 years. I think Hal is the 6th or 7th African American and has had some difficulties with the Sarasota School Board. The last one was Jill Dorsett, the principal at Booker High School, that came into town and did an excellent job over at Booker High School, and then all of a sudden some problems started to exist over there. We talked with Jill, and what she was trying to do is to bring the whole school together with it. And some problems happened with it, and next thing you know, she was forced out of there. And the people in Newtown were really upset about the situation. And it seems to be continuing with Hal. Hal is
what are the basis of his complaint?
Well, he's right now his duties are he's involved with a federal grant that is studying the situation where that they're talking. It's a nationwide problem that a lot of minority students, specifically African Americans, are placed in programs that they don't believe that should be placed there because of the criteria was involved with it. For example, 80% of the students with behavioral problems in Sarasota over at the Oak Park School are African Americans. What the problem is that they're being categorized and put in a program, so it's a federal program to use to find out if there's any basis to in Sarasota County. Well, what's happened is that Hal feels that he's had any support from the present administration going forth on it. And he was hired for that position, and things seem to be having more problems ever since Lori White became the superintendent of the school. And there's some questions about what the reasons are. There's some things occurring that Hal feels that the problems with Miss White occurred before she was superintendent, with a situation that happened down here in Creek Middle School, where Hal, as his previous position, was in charge of monitoring principals down, middle school principals, and he made some reservations about this particular school that the school board, Nelson, felt that wasn't following through on it. And what occurred was, about a couple of months later, some students down there made some complaints, and it was investigated, which eventually ended up with the principal down there leaving the school, resigning down there. And according to Nelson, who's requesting some emails that took place between Lori White and the principal of that school, and he's feeling that his movement on that card created some animosity towards Lori White, is continuing on with this particular situation.
So the base of his complaint is that Lori White, as superintendent of schools, has kind of an axe to grind with him and isn't supporting him in what he's trying to do for minority students.
Plus the fact that the history in Sarasota continues to be on there. They placed him in an isolated office. They're not giving him the support that he seems to need in order to get this program through.
Next thing I want to talk about with you is the so-called strong mayor. This has come up before, the so-called boss mayor. City of Sarasota has a weak mayor system where the mayor is actually pretty much just a ceremonially appointed city commissioner, and there's some people that think that a strong mayor, elected mayor, would be a better idea for the city government. What's your reporting on that?
Well, the big thing with us, we're interested in North Sarasota, is this second part of that, what you might call it the first part. The one part of it is to elect them as mayor in Sarasota. The other one is increasing the number of city commissioners from 5 to 7, which has really disturbed the African American community in Sarasota. A lot of people are aware that about 20 years ago there was a court case. It took them 6 years in order to get proportional representation, which had them one-fifth of the representation came from the African American community. Now what's occurring, they want to increase the number from 5 to 7, in which the African American community is upset about. What they're really upset about is that the ones that were pushing this through did not come in contact or with any of the African American leaders, Jerome Dupree, Dr. James, Fred Atkins, or nothing of this sort, and seems that doesn't understand the situation with them, and they're really upset with this, is that they're taking away some of the proportional representation with the neighborhood.
Why are people in the African American community concerned about having a strong mayor?
I don't know, not so much as the strong mayor. I mean, their concerns basically are about the increase in the city commissioners from 5 to 7. They're things, they're against the particular thing because, again, it's the amount of funding that's involved with it. You're going to have 2 more city commissioners, you're going to pay them the salaries, so forth and so on. It's going to cost probably the city maybe $200,000 per year for this particular thing.
And if they only have 1 commissioner,
right,
that person's voice would be 1 of 7 instead of 1 of 5.
And plus the fact is that funds are being cut. A lot of this TIF money that was supposed to go into Newtown is being cut. Now they're saying the funds are there, but yet they have $200,000 for this increase in the city commissioners. Doesn't make sense to them.
When we come back, we'll have more with John Susce on a couple other hot issues.